Hi, everyone. I want to be honest about my own relationship with work. I discussed it in previous video, and my relationship with achieving, my relationship with that drive, that that drive that has been my greatest strength, and for a long time, something I couldn't name, something I didn't fully understand, something I thought was my my personality. Welcome to Roda 360. This podcast, we sit down with insights about life's most curious questions. I've always worked hard. I've always been a hard worker right from, when I started growing up. And this was driven by something that I couldn't always name. I didn't have a name for. There was always something to be done, another qualification to get, another goal to be achieved, another level to reach. So when I was completing something else, there was always something to pursue, you know, even before I completed one. And for a long time, I mistook that drive for purpose. I mistook it for passion. I mistook it for being simply maybe a goal-oriented person, an ambitious person, which is good on the CV, right? If you're someone that looks for jobs. And that was genuinely that. But then some of it, right, took me years to see clearly that it wasn't just about the purpose, it wasn't just about the passion. It was the need to prove something. It was the need to be something. It was the need to prove I was something better than maybe what I knew myself to be, or something better than what people saw me as. However, the people aspect of it wasn't just it. I wasn't it wasn't to prove anything actually to anyone or any institution, not to a specific person, but it was to that internal judge, right? That internal judge, that internal, thing that I had not consciously chosen. But sometimes I couldn't silence. That quiet, yet very noisy, um, personality in my head that keeps telling me that you're only as good as whatever you produce. You're only as good as the work that you have done, the achievements that you've shown. That internal judge that kept telling me that rest is dangerous, that even when I had to take a day off, it looked as though I was lazy. That internal judge that will say, if you stop moving, then everything falls apart. If you stop taking care of the family, then everything falls apart. If you stop being the middle person between one toxic partner and another toxic partner, then everything falls apart. Then I walked that pace, right? That unrelenting pace for a long time. And for long enough, I knew that I had to change because my body eventually started sending me messages, messages I couldn't ignore, messages like migraine, like issues, like gut, stomach issues, things that I couldn't just ignore, migraine, blood pressure issues, you know, um, hormones happening to me. Because one other thing that research tells us, and this connects us back to the adverse childhood experience study, and which found direct links between childhood adversity and adult physical health outcomes. The wound doesn't just live in your psychology, it doesn't just live in your mind, it also lives in your body. And I remember, and this is not about whether it was some childhood trauma or adult trauma. I don't know where that came from, but I remember the night that I had this headache that paracetamol and ibuprofen could not treat. I knew that if I didn't do something that night, I was going to lose my life. See, the chronic stress of never being enough lives in the body, and it will also show up, it will always show up as something. You know, that constant state of low grade emergency that high achievers would always operate in. They're always nervous. They're always in that constant emergency behavior. You know, that inability to rest, that inability to receive, that inability to even celebrate, that inability to land anywhere and be happy with where they are. It has a psychological cost. And I paid some of that cost because it was in paying those costs that I started asking a different question. What am I actually doing this for? Who am I actually doing this for? Of course, the first question that came to my head was, oh, your kids. But then, my kids, then what? Because these kids are going to grow up. So what am I actually running from doing this? And the answer, when I honestly was able to sit with that answer, it was more complicated than I expected. I couldn't, except in my upcoming book, I wrote something about it, but up till now, I have not really answered it because it was something, one pattern that led to another pattern that led to another pattern I couldn't explain. So let's talk about what wound-driven ambition looks like. And I want to make this really practical and not to offend anyone, because the concept of wound or pain or trauma, any of these things driving ambition can sometimes feel abstract until you decide to see it in your own life. I'm really picking my words here because if you don't agree, or if you're not interested in reviewing your own life, you may not see it there. And some people are lucky not to even be driven by wound, not, for their achievement to be driven by wounds or pain. Those ones are blessed. So let me describe what actually looks like, day to day. Wound-driven ambition or trauma-driven ambition or achievements looks like being unable to celebrate your own wins. You finish that project, you finish that master's degree, you finish that business contract, that big government contract. You get that visa. You marry the love of your life. You have that child, or even those babies that you've been praying for. And before the day is out, you're already on to the next thing. Or before it even lands, before you even finish, you can be in the process of achieving one thing while thinking about what to do next. You don't even let it land. You don't let it mean something to you. You don't let it mean anything to you. And this is not even talking about the people around us. Most times our achievements don't mean anything to us. We don't celebrate it. We don't sit with it because somewhere underneath, you don't quite believe that it counts. It looks like rest, like rest feeling like failure, or taking a rest, like I said before, feeling like laziness. Like taking a day off doesn't count as recovery. It feels like laziness. I remember most days Or most times in my life when maybe I want to take a Saturday off, and then I'll feel like, why would I take a whole day off? It felt like laziness to me. It felt like falling behind. It felt like something was wrong. It felt as though I was sick. Even when you know intellectually that you need rest, your nervous system will not allow you feel safe. Even at night, sometimes you want to get up after working throughout the day, or sometimes you want to get up at night to just do something because it looks like compulsive over delivering. If you stay in a place that value work-life balance and you are engaging in compulsive over delivering, you will not have you will not have peace at work because your colleagues will just be looking at them as though you want to just run them over, because you give more than you are asked, more than is sustainable, more than is even useful sometimes. Sometimes even helping people, right? Sometimes when you help people, you're supposed to wait and see if they will ask for more, but then you keep giving because giving less to you felt like it was dangerous. If I don't give, then I won't be this. If I don't give, then I won't be loved. If I don't give, then I won't be respected. Because somewhere inside of you, ordinary contributions does not feel like does not feel enough to justify your place. So you have to do more. So you have to go over and beyond. It looks like that imposter syndrome that doesn't just go away, but no matter what you achieve, the feeling of, being not enough will continue to persist because you're not allowing yourself to actually sit and enjoy the process. Because imposter syndrome is not just a confidence problem, right? At its root is a worthiness problem. So it's not about your confidence. You can be in a room, look confident. Yes, you feel unworthy to be in that room. It happens to people, especially in PhD or research programs. And even in families, you could be sitting, with your family members, and then you feel, I am not enough. I am not worthy to be here. It's usually a worthiness wound. And for some of us, it came from our childhood. It was something we grew up with. It looks like relationships suffering, right? Because your relationships will suffer because if you're having to achieve all this and missing out the real thing, the real connection, the energy that should spread, across the whole life, your relationships, rest for yourself, play, creativity, presence in the lives of people you value. It gets funneled into almost entirely into work, into that business, into that thing that makes you feel, okay, if you achieve it, if you perform it, then you're going to be loved. It gets channeled into producing, even when it's not needed. And some people around you, get like the remnant or the leftover version of you, which, just be enough for them. A research by Dr. Christina Maslach, not butchering that name, she's a psychologist who developed the foundational framework for understanding burnout. That research identified exactly this problem that I'm trying to explain. Yes, it explained the pattern, that the progressive narrowing of a person's life until work becomes the only arena in which they feel any sense of control or competence. So the person goes on and on and on and on and on until The person cannot have that sense of control or competence or fulfillment if they aren't working, if they aren't performing, if they aren't producing. Everything else fades. And eventually, the work starts to fail too. It starts to fade too. And that is the end point of wound-driven ambition. Because everything fades, then clinical depression sets in, right? Anxiety sets in. The mental health is shattered. Because it's not just about the success, it's the burnout, it's the breakdown, or sometimes even both. Some people get burnt out and break down. Some complain that people do not appreciate them because for you it was about showing them what you have achieved, not sitting with it and actually celebrating yourself for it. Now, I want to be very clear about something. I'm not telling you to stop being ambitious, or I'm not saying your drive is caused by some disease, it's not pathological, and your achievements I'm not saying your achievements don't count or that everything built is just some performative or compensatory behavior. The message is, imagine what becomes possible when that same drive, that same zeal, that level of energy, that same extraordinary capacity for effort gets untethered from the wound, right? Imagine when all that push, it's not connected to the wound. It's not connected to the trauma or the pain, right? Imagine having it reconnect to true purpose. Imagine building not from, the fear of not being enough. Imagine creating that podcast, developing that tool. It's an AI world now. Everyone is developing. Building that business, not from a place of not being enough, but a place of deep knowledge that you are already enough. And you're building because it matters to you. You're building because it's going to solve a problem, or it's a solution worthy. It's a worthy solution, something that is going to solve some problem somewhere. Not because it's coming from a place of trauma, not because coming from a place of pain where you just want to show yourself or some people that you have arrived. Something that matters to you. Because it lights up something in you when you are doing something that matters to you, not because it's coming from a place of pain, right? You feel excited. You feel fulfilled even before it arrives. Because it's that authentic expression of who you actually are. And that's the message. And this message is a completely different experience of ambition. This is not built on anxiety. This is not built on any negative emotion or trying to say, okay, I'm going to do this now, I'm going to prove this now, I'm going to reach here now, no. And that version of that ambition, that the positive one, is the whole purpose-connected, wound-aware version. Is a sustainable one. Not wound-dependent. You know about the wound, but you're aware of it, but you're not doing it because of the wound. And it's a lifetime thing. It ends in burnout, right? Sometimes, but it doesn't end your life. It can end in burnout because sometimes um, excitement can lead to that. However, it expands your life. Another researcher, Dr. Brown's research on vulnerability and wholehearted living, drawn from over 2 decades, 2 decades of qualitative research, points to this same conclusion that the people who live most fully, the people who lead most effectively, the people who love most deeply are not the ones who have eliminated their wounds. They are wound aware. They are, but then they deal these things because of themselves. They build these things, they create these things because of the positive awareness that it means something good to them, something positive to them. They are the ones who have stopped and they have examined themselves. They've named their wounds, but then they've stopped letting those wounds run the show from the shadows. They stopped letting those voices, those internal judges run the shows in their heads. Of course, which controls the physical. That examination is not weakness. That examination is the most courageous thing a driven person can do. Coming to the realization that no, I'm not going to be driven by that trauma anymore. But I'm going to be driven because this thing matters to me. And this thing is a solution to so many things. Because for someone whose identity is built on strength and performance, sitting down and saying, I think some of this is coming from pain. When your identity is already built on, moving, that takes more courage than any professional achievement I can name. Because a lot of people do not even have that time to revisit themselves, to sit with themselves, with their minds, and actually name their process and actually give reason to why they do the things they do. So, what can we do with this? Jotted down some practical steps. And these are 3 starting points. These are not some program or some course or they are just 3 honest steps that we can take from here. That is, if you decide to name these issues. Step 1, name the feeling. Name the feeling that drives you. Name the feeling that pushes you to always overachieve, yet not celebrate or not take time to, value what you deliver. So the next time you feel that urgent push to work, urgent push to produce, to perform, pause for a moment and ask, what is this feeling underneath this? Where is it coming from? Is it genuine excitement to actually produce this or develop this? Is it authentic passion? Something that means something to you? Or is it anxiety? Is it a need to prove something to people outside or even your own internal judge? Is it discomfort or stillness? Is it fear? The fear of being seen as not enough. Are you producing that thing because you fear that people see you as not being enough. At that moment, you don't need to fix anything. Just name it. Just name it. Just name that emotion. Just name that process. Because naming something is the beginning of everything. See, in fact, some people find it difficult to call trauma by its name. This thing is trauma. This thing is abuse. Some people find it difficult. So name it. It's everything. It will help you. Step 2, practice receiving. There was a video I did about not being able to receive love. Practice receiving, because it sounds simple, right? But for some trauma-driven achievers or pain-driven professionals, receiving compliments, receiving rest, celebration, receiving love is often the hardest thing. And I used to be like that. If you gave me something or if something happened to me and you told me congratulations, I would freeze because I wouldn't know what to say. Because where I was coming from, it didn't really mean anything to anyone. So I grew up with it like that. Practice letting a compliment, accepting it without like immediately deflecting it. Accept it. Practice finishing a piece of work and sitting with that satisfaction for a full 10 minutes before moving on. Practice letting yourself be enough. In small moments, in big moments, where people are, when you're alone, let yourself be enough. Do it repeatedly. And I'm also talking to myself. Yeah. Which is funny, right? Step 3. What is that drive, right? What is it protecting you from? Consider it. Answer this question. This drive, this zeal that I have, this push that I have towards performing or producing, this is even a deeper question. What is it protecting you from? Because it may just be more than personal reflection, right? You may most likely need a therapist or some counselor or some coach or someone you can trust that can help you see what's hard to see alone. Sometimes we are too busy and our minds keep racing that we do not see some of these things. We can't see some of these things alone. Start by asking, if I stop achieving things at this pace or at this duration, what am I afraid would happen? If I stop over delivering, what will happen? What is the fear behind all I'm doing? What is the achievement protecting you from? What feeling do you think are you scared of? What that achievement? What are you scared of facing from being? Because the answer to that question is actually where the real work actually begins. Is it work of trauma from past relationships, be it romantic, be it whatever? And I promise you that work, as uncomfortable as it is, it leads to somewhere far better than where the wound alone will not take you. You need to ask yourself what you're doing all this for. What is the fear? If you stop and take a rest, what will change? What will happen? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to close today by saying something to the person who recognized themselves in this episode, this talk today, this rant that I've just made today. This person who felt that this talk was worth it, or who saw themselves in whatever description I've given today. And that might be me, most likely. And I won't deny it. It's most likely me. However, I want you to know that recognizing this is not um, bringing down everything you've built. It's not reducing the value of whatever you've built. No. Everything you've achieved is real. Everything, I can't begin to name them. Those qualifications are real. The career is real. Where you are watching me or listening from me right now is real. The projects, the businesses, the property, the contributions to work or family, all of it is real and it all counts. And really, some people are grateful for you just the way you are. However, you are more than your output. You are more than the performance. You are more than what you bring to the table. You are more valuable than what people think about you. You are more valuable than what that internal judge says to you. You were more than your output even before you achieved anything. It just sometimes people around us and the people we grew up with did not tell us all that. And you will be more than your output on the day that you no longer achieve, on the day you decide. You decide to pick rest. You know that wound that has been driving you? It formed you because at some point you needed it. We all needed it. We all needed that adaptation. That drive kept us from falling. That drive kept us going when going was the only option. That drive kept us from, after we fell, that drive kept us from staying there. It moved us up. But you're not that child anymore. You are not that naive adult anymore. You have more resources now. You have more presence now. You have more options now. You have more awareness. You have more choices now. And the most powerful thing you can choose, maybe the most radical act available to a high achiever, is to put down the wound. Put down the wound as your primary fuel. Don't allow the wound or the trauma or the past be your primary fuel for all you do. Don't. Instead, build from a place of wholeness. Because it's possible. All these things I'm saying, if you know it's, you can relate with it. You'd either find a therapist or coach or someone you can trust. Or if you can get hold of me, I'm not a counselor or a psychologist, or I can listen. I can listen. It's possible. And this platform, this whole conversation we're having every week. So see, I use this platform not just to share ideas or inspiration for people. Sometimes it's my therapy section. So sometimes you want to hear about me, just tune in. You're not your wounds. You're not your wounds at all. These videos, these informations, it just to teach you something about you. And when you learn it, when you sit with it, when you really learn it, what you build next will be something entirely different, something more magnificent, something more meaningful than all the performance you've always done something that lasts, something you don't have to change often, something you don't have to turn around often, something that is meaningful, something that is worthy, something that feels like for the first time, this is yours for the first time. This one is mine. This one is not for that internal voices, that negative voice that keeps telling you you're not enough. This one is not because you're trying to prove something to someone outside. This one is yours. Friends, this has been Rhoda 360, and we've been discussing the wound behind the work that we do. So if this episode opened up something for you, share it, leave a comment. Please follow my platforms, either on YouTube or Spotify. I just started something on TikTok. I don't know where that will lead to, but then please follow me when you find this video. Tell me in my DMs, something where you recognize yourself in this episode or any other one you've watched. Let's talk. Let's talk. Episodes, if you have not listened to previous episodes, I advise you to go back and start there because every episode builds on the last. Of course, we have episodes that spontaneously just came up and then we just needed to shoot, right? So, would be dropping new episodes every week. We'll also be dropping short videos to support your daily activities and just to tell you someone is on the other side of the camera or on the other side of the world voting for you and supporting you. I'll see you in the next episode. This has been Rhoda 360, where we inspire, we share insights, and we make sure every episode, every discussion is impactful. This is the full 360. Bye.